All right, welcome to the Young Turks. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur. We got a great show ahead for you guys. A little later in the program, Rick Perry, the amount of money he takes from funders and what he gives back to them. It's an awesome demonstration of how crooked politics are in Texas, how they are specifically for Rick Perry. You don't want to miss that. And the vacations him and his wife take, oh, they're awesome. So that's a little later in the program. And by the way, in the third hour today, and yes, there is a third hour for today because we do guests from time to time. Our guest, Joe Piscopo. How you like them apples? Now, for old school Saturday Night Live fans, you're going to love that. I know I'm going to love it. And Joe's from New Jersey, so we got a lot to bond over. And he might be getting into politics. We'll ask him about that as well. So it's a fantastic show ahead for you guys. But first, we start with President Obama at the United Nations. He went over there to avert what some are calling a crisis at the UN. So what's this crisis? What's happening? Are there going to be people going to war or something? No. War is good. I forget. That's why we want to stay longer in Iraq and Afghanistan, and Libya was great. No, it turns out the crisis is that we might have peace. The Palestinians have sought a peaceful resolution, a diplomatic resolution to the issue of statehood. Their negotiations with the Israelis have gone absolutely nowhere. Netanyahu has said that he basically has no interest. Every once in a while, oh, yeah, I guess I would negotiate with them. But I'm going to continue to expand settlements, which they don't want. I'm going to continue to claim most of this land is ours. And I'm not going to do anything meaningful in the way of resolving this conflict. So the Palestinians say, well, let's try a different path to peace. Let's go to take Israel's example. What did Israel do? They went and asked for recognition from the United Nations, and that was the historic decision in 1948, and that's how Israel became a state. Follow the Israeli model. Can you think of anything more logical? And by the way, this does not resort to violence. This is perfect. We've been asked for a peaceful resolution to this, and for the Palestinians to pursue that path, they have. So obviously, we consider it a crisis. We have unbelievable view of this situation in the Middle East here. It's incredibly skewed. And so the president went there and he gave a speech where he said, we can't have a shortcut to peace. And I thought, why not? That sounds terrific. Okay, what do you want? Hey guys, you want to take a really long way to get to peace, or do you want to just take a shortcut? I vote shortcut. Let's just get to peace already. He says, no, I mean, if you do the same thing that Israel did, well, then Israel doesn't like that, and hence the United States doesn't like that, and nobody can ever explain what the problem is. Like, what is the crisis? What is wrong with the Palestinians getting their state? Theoretically, the United States of America, and President Obama says it over and over again, is in favor of a two-state solution. So what's the problem? There is no problem, except Israel doesn't want a two-state solution. They want to just continue to occupy the West Bank and Gaza Strip and build more and more settlements and, of course, all of Jerusalem as well, so they can grab more and more land. That's what the crisis is. And their defenders don't even really bother making a case for it. The Republicans turn around and go, oh, well, we are obviously with Israel. It is an imperative that we are with Israel. We don't even have to explain it. It simply is. Okay? Except Rick Perry also adds that it is an imperative of his faith, which apparently he's going to mix with the government if he becomes president, that he support Israel, right or wrong. That's a fascinating new foreign policy. Now, President Obama was at the UN. We have a part of his speech. Let's show it to you.
1 year ago, I stood at this podium and I called for an independent Palestine. I believed then and I believe now that the Palestinian people deserve a state of their own.
Just not now.
But what I also said is that a genuine peace can only be realized between the Israelis and the Palestinians themselves. Israel deserves recognition. It deserves normal relations with its neighbors. And friends of the Palestinians do them no favors by ignoring this truth, just as friends of Israel must recognize the need to pursue a two-state solution with a secure Israel next to an independent Palestine.
Except that's not what we want. I'm going to tell you we want that, and then we're going to issue a veto threat to make sure that does not happen. So why did you come here a year ago pretending you're in favor of the state when you go out of your way now to come give a speech saying, don't give it to him. Whatever you do, don't give him the second state. We just want a one state because that's what Israel tells us to do. Keep it real, man. At least be honest with people. Here's the way you get a state. You declare it, okay? Again, that's exactly what Israel did. So, by the way, Palestinians are going to go to the General Assembly. They will almost certainly win, but that does not give them a full state. That gives them basically gets you about halfway there. It would have the same effect as the Vatican. It would the same status as the Vatican. If you go to the Security Council, well, then you can get a full state, except, of course, the one country that's always blocking it is the United States. So President Obama went there to say, I will not give you that state. I just won't give it, even though I promised it over and over. Okay? You've done all the right things. You're willing to negotiate. The other side isn't. But I want you to sit there for maybe the next 30 years, because at least, I mean, at a minimum, 30 years have gone by where they've had no meaningful negotiation, where one side says, I just don't want to give up the land. I don't, for whatever reason. They say, I don't trust you. They say, I need it for my security. I need the water, whatever it is. But well, I'm not going to give it to you. So he's saying, Palestinians, instead of doing it the right way, I want you to go back and sit there like a schmuck and wait for the next 30 years while we pretend that we're interested in giving you a state. That's nonsense. So I wasn't clear enough. President Obama's speech at the United Nations was nonsense. He's doing the exact opposite of what he's saying. Okay, this is my job, man, to tell you the reality of what's going on. We're there to make sure the Palestinians do not get that state. Nicolas Sarkozy, by the way, the leader of France, says, I cannot lift that rock. I can lift a smaller rock. That's an old Bill Murray skit from Saturday Night Live. He's supposed to be a strong guy, but he's like, I got back issues. Get a smaller rock. So Sarkozy says, hey, you know what? Full statehood seems a bit much. Why don't we give you observer status and then you'll run along? Why, thank you very much. Are you not merciful? Are you not generous? There is absolutely no reason why the Palestinians should not pursue this peaceful path, and there's no reason why the United Nations should not pass it, except, of course, some states are beholden, for political reasons, to Israel. Some states, mainly the United States. So, now, part of the reason that the United States is beholden to Israel is because our right-wing politicians support their right-wing politicians. And look, that part I actually understand. At least they're both right-wing. When Democrats who are otherwise progressive support the massively right-wing government of Israel, that's the part I don't understand. That's the one country in the world, it doesn't matter if you're right-wing or left-wing, they could put any leader you name. I mean, I don't know that you can get any more radical than Netanyahu, except Ariel Sharon, except Lieberman, who's their foreign minister now, who's even more radical, right? Who's saying they should work with Kurdish terrorist group to fight against Turkey. He's in favor of terrorism, but it doesn't matter. If you're a progressive Democrat in this country, you're progressive on most issues, but when it comes to Israel, it doesn't matter who their leaders are, you will support them. Ideology goes out the door. That makes no sense to me. But the right wing, at least, okay, they're logical. They're like, we're massively right wing, you're massively right wing. Some of your leaders are religious, some of our leaders are religious kooks. Let's get along, right? So speaking of religious kooks, we go to Rick Perry, who's got a couple of unique reasons why he wants to stand with Israel. Actually, I'm going to start with clip 7 here, because he just gets right to the point here as he's talking to several right-wing Jewish leaders, even though one of them is a Democratic assemblyman in New York, and also an Israeli is in the group as well. Here's Rick Perry.
Well, obviously, Israel is our oldest and most stable democratic ally in that region. That is what this is about. I also, as a Christian, have a clear directive to support Israel. So, from my perspective, it's pretty easy. Both as an American and as a Christian, I am going to stand with Israel.
Can you imagine? I mean, how much the country has changed. Imagine if Kennedy came up during his presidential run and said, it is my directive as part of being a Catholic that I will take my orders from the Vatican. I will listen to the Pope. It's part of my faith. That's it. Reelect me. He would have gotten slaughtered. He would have gotten run out of the country. He would have had 0% chance of winning. Now Rick Perry comes in and says, well, it's my directive to support Israel because that's my interpretation of the Bible, or my religious leader's interpretation of the Bible. By the way, he doesn't tell you the second part. You know what happens after they support Israel and Israel, takes the Temple Mount and destroys the mosque, etc.? We have Armageddon, where almost everyone dies. Where almost all of the Jews die. Only 144,000 survive, and they have to convert to Christianity. Oh, he didn't tell you that part of his faith, right? But It's absolutely true. He says, my faith is to make sure that I support Israel in the short term and make sure that they are destroyed in the long term. Oh, he left that part out of the speech. How do you like his faith now? And second of all, can you imagine if in present day somebody came up, like Mitt Romney came up and said, it's part of my faith that I have to take orders from the Mormon leader Moroni or whoever he is. And that's the directive I have. Or, now this is funny, if a Muslim leader, political leader came up and was running for president and said, well, obviously I take my orders from Mecca. That's my faith. What do you think his chance of success would be? Look, they missed the whole point of the country. Separation of church and state. It's in the First Amendment. We all have a religious freedom. You cannot impose your religion on us. And this guy's running for president. Says, yeah, I'll be commander-in-chief and rule according to my interpretation of the Bible. That's it. And hence, I will favor some nations over others. I will be unfair if it needs to be. Palestinians, what name so? He finds them totally irrelevant. He thinks it's wrong to be even-handed. Let me give you more clips. Let's go to clip 8 here.
The American people are for Israel. We may have an administration that has a different view of Israel, but the American people are for Israel. So I hope you will tell the people of Israel that help is on the way.
Yeah, help is on the way. Don't worry, all you right-wingers in Israel, we're going to do whatever your crazy leaders want. Progressive Israelis, who cares? Moderate Israelis, you don't get peace? I don't give a damn. I'm just going to do it because I can't wait for Armageddon. That's what my Bible tells me. And he says, of course, and imagine this. Remember when they gave flack to Nancy Pelosi for going to Syria? They're like, how dare you talk to a foreign leader and say what our policy is when we have the president of the United States? Bow your head. Now, Rick Perry's like, president, ignore what he says. He doesn't speak for any of us. Just let me, a potential candidate, tell you guys what our real policy is going to be, okay? Talk about undermining the president, but he doesn't give a damn. Now, let's go to clip 9.
If the Palestinians do declare statehood, would you support the Israelis taking steps as sanctions against the PA?
Well, I think there are a number of things that we should do if the UN does, in fact, vote to allow statehood in direct conflict with the Oslo Accords. One of those is obviously having the United States send a clear message to the UN that we're not going to support you with our dollars anymore.
So do you understand that? You know that most of the dollars that go to the Palestinian Authority is for security, so they can stop terrorism. That is why a lot of Israelis, including Netanyahu, have said to even Republican politicians, hey, you know what? I'm not sure we want to cut that funding. That might be counterproductive. But here, Rick Perry doesn't give a damn. He says, oh, yeah, let's cut the funding of the Palestinian Authority. That'll be awesome. Other suggestions he had was for shutting down the Palestinian Liberation Organization office in Washington, so basically cutting off diplomatic ties. Should they continue building in the West Bank? He says, absolutely. Impediment to peace. Rick Perry doesn't want peace. He wants Armageddon. So, of course, he doesn't mind if Israel keeps building in the West Bank. And then, by the way, he says, of course, we should also move our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which is another thing that would create more and more conflict. But Perry doesn't mind the conflict as long as it's those people over there dying and not him. He's extremely happy about it. So, and by the way, what do the Palestinians get in return for any of this? Nothing. Here's a solution to Palestine. Go pound sand. I don't give a damn about you. Okay? More. Number 10.
Here's what I believe, is that for 3 years, the Middle East has heard a wavering, an aimless foreign policy, and they've seen it all too often out of this White House, apologizing for America, apologizing for America's exceptionalism. I think that message has been the driving factor in instability in the Middle East.
Yeah, it's destabilizing to say that, hey, you know what, we should take other people's thoughts into consideration and other countries' policies into consideration. It's apparently stabilizing when America comes in and says, we are exceptional and you will take our commands. Hey, we tried that under Bush. Was that stabilizing? Did Iraq look stable under Bush, under that regime? Did the Middle East look stable under Bush, under that regime? But these guys are undaunted by their continual and utter failure. They just keep going and going with the same bad policies because they don't have the same goal as us. We keep naively thinking that they're also interested in peace. They're not. They have proven over and over again they're interested in the opposite. They're interested in war. One last one from Rick Perry, clip 6.
Simply put, we would not be here today at this very precipice of such a dangerous move if the Obama policy in the Middle East wasn't naive and arrogant, misguided, and dangerous. It must be said first that Israel is our oldest and strongest ally in the Middle East, a democratic ally in the Middle East, and it has been for more than 60 years. The Obama policy of moral equivalency, which gives equal standing to the grievances of Israelis and Palestinians, and including the orchestrators of terrorism, is a very dangerous insult. There is no middle ground between our allies and those who seek their destruction. America should not be ambivalent between the terrorist tactics of Hamas and the security tactics of the legitimate and free state of Israel.
You see that? No middle ground. Because, again, he does not want a resolution. He wants there to be more, honestly, bloodshed and disaster. We should not be balanced. There should be no middle ground. We should be extreme. These are the guys running for the Republican presidency. If you think, oh, that's bad, I got one last one for you. And it's Joe Walsh. Rick Perry is insanely extreme. Joe Walsh is going to outdo him. He's a freshman Republican congressman from Illinois. You know what he says? He says Israel should annex the West Bank. Peace. No way, no way. One state solution. We just take over the West Bank and that's that. It's over. It's ours. Now, Palestinians, if you want to go to war, that would be awesome. We would love that. Get us closer to Armageddon. All these religious freaks. All right, Ben Mankus is in the studio. Quick thoughts here. Agree or disagree with Obama's strategy of telling the Palestinians to pound sand?
Obama, like most Muslims, is anti-Semitic.
Okay, good point. Good counterpoint.
I don't know how you could miss that. One thing Rick Perry said that I thought was interesting, and JR thought he was delivering the speech for the first time, like he was reading it the way you'd be like, moral equivalency. But he gets to the moral equivalency, and he doesn't say moral equivalency of the Israeli government and the Palestinian Authority. It was the moral equivalency of the Palestinians and the Israelis. It was a very tangible thing, saying the needs of those people are unimportant to me or less important than the needs of these people. I don't even think that's the right talking point. I think he's supposed to say the governments, the state names, not the people, and I think it's very telling that he said the people.
No, I think you're exactly right, Ben, because I think that they don't, but it exudes their real attitude towards the Palestinians. Like I think if you ask Rick Perry, why do you care about the Palestinians? He would say, I don't know. Am I supposed to care about them? They've never given me a dollar in campaign donations. All they can do is get me in trouble. Like, am I supposed to care about? Like, I don't think it occurs to him to care about the Palestinians.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. And it's interesting because as in watching the speech, you're pointing out the sort of silliness of what he said and the lack of sophistication in the intellectual argument that he's making. I'm watching the speech, and just because he succeeded George Bush, I'm thinking, yeah, he's better than Bush. I don't mean better like policies are better, but like he doesn't seem as out of it. Like already he's a better candidate. More appealing. I could see winning over more people, but that's totally right. I mean, there is a massive lack of sophistication, but because he has a less halting phraseology, I was already prepared to give him a bit of a pass, and I think others probably will. Not a pass, but you know what I'm saying.
No, absolutely. Unless you know exactly what he's saying and why it's wrong, people will look at that and go, okay, he didn't stutter.
Right, didn't stutter. Right.
You're like, win. In the Republican world, that's a win. Does he know the difference between Palestinians and, Palestinian Liberation Organization and Fatah and Hamas?
Oh, don't get it. Fatah, please. You got Hamas.
Yeah, I mean, if you asked him who Fatah is, he'd, of course, call it a gotcha question. Right? So it's reassuring. But, okay, look, we'll end it at that. But their disdain for a whole people and their complete and utter indifference used to be stunning. It's no longer stunning. What's really sad about it is how normal it's become. All right, let's take a quick break here and come back. All right, back on the Young Turks. Cenk and Anna with you. We continue our amazing stories. Go.
More and more undocumented immigrants in the United States who are about to give birth do so while they are shackled and while they have a guard watching them as they give birth. Okay, this was a story that was written up on Huffington Post, and I thought it was unbelievable. I thought our country was a little better than that. I'm not saying I support illegal immigration, but this is just inhumane, okay? So what's happening is undocumented women will get arrested, and while they're detained, some of them might be pregnant, they might be going into labor. So what ends up happening is while they're giving birth, they're taken away from their family members. They literally have authorities standing there and watching them give birth, and they're shackled to the bed because they're dangerous individuals who might run away while they're in the process of delivering a freaking baby.
Now, here's who can't run away. A woman in the middle of birth, okay? I mean, seriously, what's she gonna do? Like grab the baby and start running?
I don't know what they think. I don't know we're treating these people like they're dangerous, violent criminals, and in these cases, they're not, okay?
They don't have documents. They should have documents, but they don't have them. That doesn't mean you need to shackle them. Like shackled means like Hannibal Lecter gets shackled. Like that she can like all of a sudden like get up and rip your face off and put it on and escape, right? She's giving birth. She's not going anywhere, okay? And you don't need to have a creepy dude watching it.
No, just think about that for a second, though, Cenk. Think about that for a second. You're giving birth. Your entire body is exposed. It's not something that you want, strangers there to witness, okay? And you have some government official standing there watching you deliver, okay, which is, you're already in a horrible position because you're delivering a baby. It's painful, it's difficult, it's stressful on yourself, both mentally and physically. And to not have your family members there and have an official there watching you while you're shackled is ridiculous. One of the women that was profiled in this case says that she begged the official to at least release one of her arms. And he was like, no, I'm not going to release your arm because you're here and you're an undocumented immigrant, so sorry.
Now, look, here's the thing. It's not like we're saying that they should tell the women, okay, you know what, go have the birth and be with your family and then come back, right? Because then people might say, oh, you're so naive, they're not going to come back, right? Okay, all right. So why don't you have the guy stand outside? Okay?
And why don't you take the shackles off?
He accompanies her, okay? She's not going to, you don't shackle her. You have a guard outside or a government official outside, right? And you let the husband in. And if the government official wants to follow the baby, make sure that the baby is the right one and is there and they don't smuggle the baby out, okay. But you don't have to stand over her private parts looking over her while she's shackled. I mean, come on, this is the most obvious thing in the world. I mean, at what point do we say we're too inhumane? That this is too sick?
It is sick. And what I also found fascinating about this story and unbelievable about this story is that there are only 14 states in the US that ban shackling a woman who is giving birth. Okay, only 14 states.
Here's who I would shackle during birth. Like a mass killer, right? So a woman who in the past has like chopped up doctors, specifically OBGYNs, and put them in the fridge. I'd say, hey, you know what? There's OBGYNs around, maybe I'd shackle her during the birth. But unless it's an extreme case, they're not going anywhere. Their placenta might still be in them. Where are they going to go? Okay? I mean, come on. Do I have to spell it out?
And of course, in many of the cases, the babies are taken away from them. In one case, a woman had her baby taken away from her for 70 days until she can reunite with him. So this is just a horrible story. And it's unbelievable to me how far this war on undocumented immigrants has gone, okay?
Another war, great.
Right, exactly. And here's the thing. I know that they're doing something illegal, and we need to figure out some sort of reform. We need to find a solution to this problem. But treating these people, these women, as these violent criminals is not the way to go. And Sheriff Arpaio from Maricopa County,
of course,
is like, of course, this is mostly happening in Arizona.
Of course.
This guy is just so loathsome, and there's so many people that are applauding him and saying he's an American hero.
Of course.
No, he's a bully, okay? And he is treating these people like violent criminals and treating them like they're not human.
No, you know what's a really classy guy? A guy who picks on pregnant women. That guy's what a tough guy he is, because that's the way you can really show you how tough you are. Not pick on someone your own size, but pick on poor, defenseless, pregnant women and shackle them. How tough! God, Sheriff Arpaio, you make me shudder. You're a sad, insecure, sorry excuse for a man.
Current had this really great documentary on their program called Vanguard.
What's Current? No, tell me more about the great documentary on Current.
By the way, this is completely unrelated to any current news, okay? But
Sure.
honestly, I watched this documentary about undocumented immigrants, and Arpaio was being interviewed by the woman who was narrating the documentary, and he's such a prick.
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah, he's a total prick. She's just trying to ask him completely normal questions. She wasn't being rude to him. She wasn't even really challenging him, right? But he's just so, he's always on the offense. That's what Arpaio is, okay?
Right.
The guy who's always on the offense. So I can't stand that guy. So you guys should check out that Vanguard documentary.
He's like out of a movie, man. I mean, I can tell you a million Arpaio stories. We've done them before on the show. I'm just curious. I don't want this to ever happen, obviously, but I wonder what would happen if he didn't have all that authority and all the guns and et cetera behind him. Mm-hmm. If he was actually in a confrontation where it was an even fight. You know how those bullies are, right? But I don't want any fights. I don't want anything like that. Just two last things. I don't want people to get the impression that we're in favor of undocumented immigrants. I mean, we say it over and over, and it's super obvious anyway. But look, I'll give you an example. My ex-girlfriend's she's doing it the right way. She's doing it the legal way. She's been waiting for the green card for over 10 years now, 12 years, longer, might be 15 by now. So I don't like people jumping to the head of the line, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that there is a reasonable way to handle this, and it isn't through shackles. And then the second point I wanted to make is, Current has terrific documentaries.
I heard that they're developing this new show with this group called the Young Turks. I don't know. It sounds really good.
Interesting. Yeah. Ben.
So, pause, transition.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what we think the definitive word is for now, for the purposes of your program. And I'm going to give credit to Colleen Curry. She has the byline here, and it's the people at abcnews.com because they appear to have information. Everybody waited because nobody quite knew what was happening. Troy Davis's execution was delayed tonight as the Supreme Court weighed arguments by Davis's legal team in the state of Georgia over whether he deserves a stay. So it was hold on, we're going to hear this out. 7:05, after his 5 minutes after his death, we heard the supporters go into cheers. Here's the key part. The Supreme Court could decide at any time tonight or in the next 7 days whether to go ahead with the execution. So literally now we don't know what we're waiting for because it could be now or obviously any time in the next week.
I'm with you, Ben, on the point you made earlier. This is more cruel. You've got Damocles' sword hanging over your head for 7 days.
I think the part where they kill you is the most cruel. But
I hear you. But you know what?
This might be the most unusual.
I'm going to connect those last two stories through Steven Seagal. Okay, Steven Seagal working with Arpaio on a reality show, goes in a tank and rolls over this guy's house, kills his dog. Okay, and turns out they got the wrong house, right? Okay, he's clown of the.
Is that true?
Yeah. Okay, I don't know why he's not the new Michael Vick, but anyway. And then, it was because of cockfighting. You remember that, Steven Seagal with all the cocks?
What?
Yeah, they were going after this guy for cockfighting, and they ran over his house and whatever it was, right? I don't remember the details.
They killed his dog.
Did he kill his dog? Something like that happened.
They knocked down his house.
They knocked down his whole house with a tank, okay? Because they wanted to get at the cock.
What is he, Palestinian?
Right, exactly, right? Anyway, and Steven Seagal told me that sometimes the anticipation of death is worse than death itself.
Yeah, I love it. I love the sort of the little sort of pithy sayings by Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
Steven Seagal has played characters who are sort of in touch with the universe and so forth,
right.
And he thinks that's who he is.
Yeah, except they're in touch with the universe by killing other people and breaking their legs and arms.
It's a movie. Yeah, except in this case where he actually rolled over the guy's house and maybe killed his dog.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot whether the dog got killed or not.
It's way better if he killed his dog. Better story.
Somebody killed the dog, and I remember comparing him to Michael Vick, and I know he rolled over the dude's house in a tank. Okay, probably killed more cocks than the guy did through that exercise. But Steven Seagal, a huge cock killer. Anyway, let's move on. Sorry.
The New York Police Department is trying to fight terrorism in New York, and one way that they're doing that is basically briefing club owners on how they can spot terrorists in their own clubs, okay? This is a 27-page paper that they gave all of these club owners in New York, and it's the most ridiculous story I think I've read in a long time because the advice that they give them is hilarious.
Now, I don't know what you're talking about. This is the most logical thing I've ever heard. Because where's the first place you'd find a terrorist?
New York club!
In a club with some gin and tonic, right?
All right, so the New York Daily News is reporting about this, and they outline a couple of the things that this 27-page paper says. So I want to show you guys and read you a couple things. So it turns out that it advises club owners to be cautious about nervous customers who are sweating profusely and with bulging veins in the neck. I don't know what that is, but that's not for the story.
Okay. So I believe that describes half of the club goers in New York that are profusely sweating with bulging veins in their neck. And probably those guys are from New Jersey. Really? You're supposed to look for nervous, sweaty guys in clubs? That only describes 90% of it.
Exactly. It also says, be alert to people with visible wires and tape protruding from their clothing and individuals who are obviously disguised.
Okay, then don't go to the clubs during Halloween. Okay, here's the only part I agree with. If you've got wires sticking out of your shirt, no matter where you are, I'd move away from that guy. Okay, and I'll call somebody. I mean, you see wires coming out of their shirts and whatever, okay, then we got an issue, okay? But I think that applies to KFC and that applies to, you know, wherever you see them, not just clubs.
Just keep in mind that the CIA, you know, and this is relating to a story that we've done before, the CIA right now is funding the New York Police Department so they can basically get trained on counterterrorism and so they can basically fund things like this. Okay, so CIA money going into this. Where does CIA money come from? Taxpayers. So
not only that, the CIA is not supposed to work inside the United States of America. It's
Right.
patently illegal. Okay. Furthermore, look, this breaks down into one of two things. One is either incredibly stupid, like look for sweaty guys at a club, right? Or incredibly obvious. Look for a bomb. If he's got a bomb, report it.
He might
Really?
be
I
a
didn't know that.
terrorist.
Okay. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. What is it? Look, and don't get me wrong, I know sometimes terrorists do go to clubs, right? Sometimes they go to the bathroom. Doesn't mean you should spring in on the bathroom and be like, where are you? You got wires sticking out. Are you nervous and sweaty? Right? Like the 9/11 guys, a couple of them went to a strip club before they went and did 9/11. Of course, you know why? Because fundamentalists are always hypocrites, right? And they're like, oh, Allah says America is filthy and dirty. Let's check out their girls that are filthy and dirty. And they went and they got drunk at a strip club before they went and did 9/11. They were infiltrating the enemy. Yeah, I'm sure you were, right? But it's not something that's like an epidemic. It's not like, the last story I heard about terrorists infiltrating clubs was never. Outside of that 9/11 one where just two guys went to a strip club.
And not only that, look, everything that's in this booklet is common sense. Okay, it's very, very easy. You don't need to spend taxpayer money on it. People aren't idiots. Well,
no, you know what? Last thing on this. And Anna just hit upon why we're even doing this story and why it's the 27-page booklet got written. Because they got to justify the money somehow, right? And they've run out of places. They already did the booklet on what do you do in the subways, what do you do in the planes, what do you do on the trains, which all makes sense, right? And they're like, how else do we spend the money? I don't know. Let's write a 27-page booklet on how to spot a terrorist at a nightclub.
exactly. And of course, they don't have any real content to put into it. So there was even a section of it that told club owners how they can spot intoxicated patrons.
Come on, man. How obvious is it that they're just trying to suck up your money, taxpayer money, to write this garbage?
All right, next story. The Rand Corporation has conducted a study, and what they did is they looked at the violence surrounding medicinal marijuana dispensaries that were shut down in Los Angeles, okay? So the reason why the city council in Los Angeles decided to shut down all of these dispensaries, in fact, they shut down 430 out of 600 dispensaries, is because they believe that these dispensaries caused violence in the areas, right? So what the Rand Corporation did is they looked at violence 10 days prior to the dispensary being shut down, and they looked at the violence 10 days after this dispensary was shut down.
Can I just say, I already love this study.
Yeah?
Okay, so I'm curious, what was the result?
They found out that after the dispensary was shut down, violence increased by 60% in the areas.
Okay, I knew it. You know why? First of all, okay, who smokes a joint and then goes and shoots people?
Seriously.
Okay, or mugs people, right? No, they go and, you know the classic old jokes. They go to Taco Bell, they get Doritos, yada, yada. They're a piece. But if they don't get their marijuana, they're like, what the hell, man? They're agitated.
Yeah, no, but that's a good theory, okay? But I do want to be fair to those who think that it might possibly cause violence, right? Because there are cases where the owners of these medicinal marijuana dispensaries get robbed, they get shot, they get killed. There were 2 owners that got shot and killed in Los Angeles
No,
alone.
totally. That's why I'm in favor of shutting down all 7-Elevens. Sometimes they get robbed. You know, it's dangerous. If you want violence to go down, you shut down those 7-Elevens.
Right. By the way, let me just say one other thing. So it turns out that 430 out of 600 dispensaries in Los Angeles alone got shut down. Look, I'm in favor of legalizing marijuana, okay? Don't get me wrong. But 600 dispensaries? I think that we have more dispensaries in Los Angeles than McDonald's. That's crazy.
It's the most normal thing in the world. The minute they made it legal, I was like, here it comes.
Yeah,
Right.
Every street corner, instead of a Starbucks, now you see marijuana shops.
Yeah, yeah. Look, it turns out a lot of people have medical issues.
What about banks? They get robbed.
Oh, all
That's
the
a good
time.
point. We
Yeah.
gotta
Shut them down. Shut them down.
Yeah.
Take them down.
You know what? I'm going to have Tim Geithner look into that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, it's not just that no one has ever committed a crime after smoking weed. It's not. No one in their right mind. Those things are not even remotely related. That crime is nothing to. It's like you said about the 7-Elevens. This is a random statistic. It's like doing a statistic that finds out like what did percentage of crime go up after the grocery store stopped selling Eggo waffles, or was crime in the 10 days before they stopped selling Eggo waffles? Because people, I mean, I love Eggos, man. I'm agitated when I don't get an Eggo.
You know what's really weird? Rand Corporation did that exact study. And it turns out, shockingly enough, they did not do that.
Oh, is that right? No, they didn't. I was like, well, I'll let you finish this point. This will be interesting.
Right.
Yeah, one has nothing to do with the other, and that's the problem with the argument that the DEA still makes. Their primary argument that they will make, the Drug Enforcement Agency, that it's a gateway drug. That that all the people who use cocaine and use heroin and use hillbilly heroin, that these people started with marijuana first. Well, they also drove cars. They also wear collared shirts. They also watch TV.
TV, huge gateway drug.
Yeah, so you can call it whatever you want. But logic tells you that this is not an issue. People don't get stoned and go commit crimes.
By the way, here's another gateway drug.
I'm sorry, and the last point I'll make, and I'll get out of your way, but those robberies, of course, weren't robberies to use that marijuana. It was to sell that marijuana because it's still illegal and there's still a market for that.
That's another good point. And the gateway drug they never mentioned, funny enough, is a little thing called alcohol.
Yeah, seriously. Alcohol's okay, right?
But Coors Light pays the bills, right? So they don't mention that gateway drug. I mean, couldn't you make just as good a case for that as marijuana? You start on alcohol, next thing you know, you're on hillbilly heroin, next thing you know, you're on crack, like Rush Limbaugh. Well, I know he did the hillbilly heroin. We're not sure about the crack.
Okay, so
He sounds like it, but anyway.
look, I feel embarrassed saying this, but I don't know what hillbilly crack is. What's hillbilly crack?
No, hillbilly heroin is OxyContin.
Oh, okay. I
So-
didn't know that they referred to it as that.
Yeah, that's the nickname for it. But it's for white people, so it's okay. Like Rush
That's
Limbaugh,
true.
used to talk about how if anybody's a druggie and they're found out, you should lock them up and throw away the key. Direct quote. Okay. But when he was found out to be abusing drugs illegally, he said, it's okay. It's hillbilly heroin. It's for white people.
Prescription drugs, it's
Yeah,
fine.
no, it's fine. It's fine.
By the way, on the day that you weren't here, we did a story about how prescription drug deaths are now more than heroin deaths and cocaine deaths combined. Okay, and prescription drugs, they're fine, no problem with that, right? But marijuana, oh hell no. We better.
Rand Corporation did a study of violence before and after they shut down pharmacies.
That would be great.
Yeah, you think they're going to shut down any of the pharmacies? You think they're not going to sell those prescription drugs? No, there's a good money to be made. Look, as we said yesterday, final thing. If they legalize marijuana, for the love of God, don't let private corporations sell it. Because if you think, and now forget marijuana, much more worried about cocaine and heroin and stuff. You think they like selling prescription drugs. You think they like selling alcohol. Wait till they get a load of cocaine. It's a hell of a drug, I hear. All right, what's next?
A gay military member who goes by the online handle, Are You Surprised?, decided to come out to his father yesterday. Now, of course, yesterday was when the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell came into effect, and we actually have video of this. His name is really Randy Phillips, and the story was, the video was a little bit of a tearjerker. So, and he does it live, right? And then he put it up on YouTube.
By the way, it's also an appropriate handle if you're going to tell your dad you're gay on video to your handle being, Are You Surprised?
Right.
My guess is he probably was. Let's watch.
Hello?
Hey, Daddy.
Hey, bud.
Hey, what are you doing?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm listening to my brother think that I show any plans because I ain't heard his voice in a long time.
Well, what are you doing right now?
Sitting upstairs.
Oh, who's with you?
Sherry?
Oh. Hey, can I tell you something?
Do I?
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Will you love me, period?
Yes.
Like you'll always love me. As long as I'm a... Dad, I'm gay.
Okay.
Like, always have been. I've known since forever. And, I know I haven't seen you in like a year, and, I don't know when's the next time I'll be able to see you. I didn't want to do it over the phone. I wanted to tell you in person, but, I didn't want you to find out any other way.
Okay.
You still love me?
I still love you, son. Yes, I still love you.
Are you okay, Dad?
Doesn't change our relationship. You hear me?
Yeah.
Doesn't change our relationship.
You're the first one I told. I haven't told Mom or any of the girls.
Okay.
That's interesting. It's interesting he decided to tape it.
It is.
Yeah, and of course he didn't have to release the tape. If his dad had a bad reaction, he could have just not released the tape, right? So kind of put his dad on the spot there, but his dad came through, did the right thing, and man, it was interesting seeing that, a conversation you almost never see, right? Because
Right.
it's an incredibly private conversation.
You see, you always assume that it's a difficult conversation to have, but then visualizing it, I think, for a lot of people is difficult. So that video perfectly helps you visualize exactly what the person is going through when they come out of the closet. So, you can tell he's super nervous. He keeps looking around. He doesn't look at the camera at all. He's fidgeting.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine come out right a little after college, and he had to tell his parents, and his parents were from an immigrant community, and God, it's a hell of a thing, man. And that, you got to remember that was about 20 years ago too, right? And they weren't used to it in that community, and they just kept asking him over and over, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Is it a phase? Is it this and stuff?" And then in the end, they supported him 100%, right? But it's of course an incredibly tough moment, and it was interesting that he chose to share it. I'm not sure I would have done that. I think it's too private for, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad he did, so we got a little view into how tough that is. And
I think that it, gives gay people an encouraging bit of footage, I think that there are so many gay people out there who are scared to come out to their parents, who remain in the closet, who struggle with it all the time, and watching that makes it seem like, hey, it's not always a disastrous thing.
Right, and just last thing on him is that he's a serviceman, so he's going to come out if for other reasons. He wants to tell his dad first, right? He doesn't want his dad to hear from other people. Like he said, he'd like to do it in person, but he can't because of his situation. That's why he tells him over the phone. And so that's why it's a bit of a unique case.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I'm happy for the guy. More power to you if you want to, record it. Obviously, it's not live. It's not like people tune into watching him just make phone calls. A random guy. And cool. I was gonna ask right before you guys actually answered the question, who's interested? Because we don't know him. If it's somebody that we know, if it's a celebrity or something, that has at least some kind of angle of, I wonder how this goes down. I'm happy for you, but why the rest of us looking into it and be like, oh my God, this is great. Oh my God, this is crazy.
No, it's a dramatic moment. Look, if they said,
look. So when a kid comes back home and says, I met this guy. Do we care about that too? I mean, it's his life, it's his personal life. Yeah, he wants to put it out there.
This is totally different from someone saying, I met this guy. This guy's coming out, he's gay, he's been in the closet, he's coming out to his father. It's a big deal.
We don't know who his father is, we don't know who he is. Like, there's nothing that connects us to this for any reason. Now, like I said, if there's a teenager who's awkward and doesn't know how to do it, cool, that's something for them to see. I can see the reason for that.
You know what connects us to this? We're human beings. We're curious. I mean, more than anything else, like, for example, if you said to me, a girl is going to go tell her mom and father that she's pregnant, right? Do you want to watch? I'll be like, yeah, I'll watch, right? Because it could be interesting. It could be different. It could be dramatic. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know her. She's not Angelina Jolie.
That's the success of reality shows, right?
That's why reality shows work, exactly.
Saying it's something important. Well, at least let's say that rather than say it's something important. I mean, it changes the world. Oh my God, America needs this.
I think that it's
we want to see this guy, and we wonder if his father's going to go off and say, "Get out of my house!" I mean, and that sucks. That's what we're looking for.
No, JR, no. But you're coming at it from the wrong perspective. For all of us, maybe coming out's not that big a deal, right? But for a huge portion of the country, it's a huge deal. So all these little steps help in normalizing it in a sense.
I just think, JR, when you do it, don't tape it.
It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Just keep it to yourself. That'll just be a conversation with you and your family. It's all right.
Okay. It's okay. Yeah. We don't have to know. Okay. All right.
All right, quick break. When we come back, a woman has erected a massive cross in her front yard. Okay.
Erected. Okay, one other thing. A reality show that we predicted and you are going to enjoy. Speaking of reality shows, you don't want to miss that one. Come right back.